Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the podcast. We're back again. Welcome back on, Chris. How you doing, mate?
I am great, mate, and I'm really pleased to be here. And it's nice to actually have a reason to have this conversation that isn't going to be so depressing. So yeah, bring it on.
Should be good. Welcome back on the pod, Mike. How you doing?
Good, yeah. Had a nice reason not to be here last time, going to the Ryder Cup, and it reminded me what it was like to enjoy sport. So coming back to Shrewsbury, I was a little bit concerned about what I was going to come back to, but actually it's been pretty good. 2 wins and lots of other positives to talk about. So yeah, looking forward to getting into this one.
It'd be remiss.
Mike, what was more satisfying? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go, Chris. You go first.
I was just going to ask Mike, what was more satisfying, watching the winning putt at the Ryder Cup or watching Will Boyle bury that header on Saturday to get our second win in a row?
Yeah, I don't know which felt less expected. You know, it hadn't won an away Ryder Cup for such a long time, but I also hadn't seen a home win for such a long time. So I can't pick between them. But yeah, probably just because of how mad my lad went afterwards, probably still Will Boyle. You know, you're always Town's always your first love, even though the Ryder Cup was amazing. Yeah,
that's a proper Shrewsbury Town answer. I like it.
And do you have a good time?
Mike? Yeah, we were stood. One of the funniest things happened. We were stood by the 14th, which is a little par 3, watching them play through. Just as Chuck Tanike scored for the Town in one of the games that I missed. And I turned to my mate next to me and said, I can't believe it, we're here. And Chuck Tanike scored, and the bloke next to us turned and said, I cannot believe I'm at the Ryder Cup and I've heard the name Chuck Tanike. And he was a big Charlton fan. So we spent about an hour watching the golf, talking to him as well. So that was a bit of a weird experience. Chuck Tanike was brilliant. He was a big hit at the Ryder Cup, weirdly. Yeah, imagine that.
That's brilliant. I love that. Yeah. I love that. Oh, it's great to hear. So yeah, please you had a good time. Yeah, we were trying to send you messages, weren't you? During you were begging us not to send you photos because obviously the Wi-Fi and the signal and all that. But no, it was good. Good to hear you had a good time there, Mike. So welcome back on the pod. Talking of American sports and Americans, Dan was at the NFL today. He isn't joining us now. Maybe he'll join us at the end. We'll see. We did keep the invite for him if he wants to join when he gets home. But yeah, he went to see the Rams beat the Jaguars at Wembley. So yeah, on his way home. So this is the first time I think we did a quick check where we've had a podcast where we don't need to talk about a Shrewsbury Town defeat. Hooray. And the last time we had a podcast where we didn't talk about defeat was the special pod we did when we beat Wrexham 2-1. So that feels quite a long time ago now. So yeah, good podcast to get into. Looking forward to this one. So obviously we've got the Barrow draw, the Cambridge win, some transfers, and then the Crawley home win to talk about. So lots of things to get into. Also we can cover off the FA Cup and then talk a few different themes and stuff as well. So yeah, plenty for us to get our teeth into. And yeah, let's jump into it. First game we're going to talk about this evening was the draw with Barrow. An interesting game in many ways. The weather was torrential. Storm Amy was whipping up a storm across the UK, which made it quite difficult playing conditions. The fans who were at the game said, and we were watching this one. Yeah, at the time and during the game, for me, it was quite a frustrating watch. Yes, I can obviously give players the benefit of the doubt to an extent about the weather. But I will start a bit of a negative. When, for example, like a player tries a diagonal for like the 7th time in a row, and it doesn't work, Mike, it does get a little bit frustrating. So Barrow was a game I think we really should have got more from it. It's a game we really should have won, and Barrow were atrocious, which is a bit of a theme, I think, about the bottom half of League Two.
Yeah, I think it's a theme we'll probably come on to later. Like, there seems to be a bit of a consistent story when we're talking about League Two this season. There are the quality is so low, including ourselves, with our league position, and it's tough to watch at times. And although we, going away to Barrow and coming back with a point, it's not the worst result in the world. In the grand scheme of things, for a club of our stature who come into League Two, we should be targeting those away games for picking up more than a point. And the conditions were terrible, and I'm not sure the pitch was brilliant, and it seemed like a really hard game for the players, but. I was thinking back to it earlier on. It was a game where really nothing happened. The ball was sort of caught in the wind a lot, and we didn't really seem to get going. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this season. I think that we're going to see many more attritional battles than we are going to see much good football from either ourselves or the opposition. I think League Two is just battle your way out of it. I think it seems to be what I picked up. There's not a lot of good football being played that I've seen in the match I've seen, unless you saw anything else, Chris, when you were watching it. But it was a tough watch.
So I saw negatives and positives there. I would say, so we won the toss at that game and we turned them around. That was noticeable at the start of the game, and we did that to play with the wind. And the game plan was clearly to be ahead at half time, and we categorically failed to do that. And that was frustrating as hell, wasn't it, really? And at half time, I was pretty infuriated watching it because I thought we'd been pretty terrible in using the conditions. What I will say is, having got to half time at 0-0, I thoroughly expected us to be battered. I think I remember putting something on Twitter to say we're going to lose this 2 or 3-0, and most people seemed to agree, because I assumed that Barrow would do a much better job with the wind than we had done. What actually happened was, playing against the wind, that's my positive. We actually showed a bit of common sense. We kept the ball down. We were playing the ball shorter, knowing that the long balls into the wind weren't going to work. And watching on telly, if you hadn't been told by the commentators, it wasn't really obvious second half that there was a strong wind. If anything, we were still the more likely team to score. And that, to me, that's a positive given the state of the conditions. I expected us to lose that game, and we didn't at that point. So I was pleased with that. And it was a clean sheet at the time, our third clean sheet of the season. So that was a positive for Will Brook in goal, his first clean sheet in professional football. And he, again, in difficult conditions for him, I'd imagine that wind was tougher for goalkeepers than anybody, and he acquitted himself well. So there were things I'll take out of that game that were positives, and hopefully that did put us in a good stead for what even more positives that we've got to talk about over the rest of the evening.
So yeah, take the positives. The clean sheet was obviously a big positive, and while I think we all got a bit tired of performances. It's all about results. I think the last 2 games is all about results, and we did dominate that game. So we totally dominated the first half, as we said, and we had spells in the second half. So there's definitely positive to take away there, Chris. I totally agree with you. It's just frustrating that we hope and probably believe that the players are better than what we saw. But like I say, a draw away from home wasn't the worst result in the world. And then obviously we came into a home game against Cambridge, and Cambridge come into this game with 8th in League Two. And I'll ask you guys both, what was your thoughts coming into this game? Were you expecting anything from the game? Were you a little bit nervous or apprehensive in terms of what might happen today? I'll start with Chris.
Well, we hadn't won a home game at that point since February the 1st. So frankly, I'm apprehensive coming into any home game. And as you say, coming up against a team that was showing a little bit of form. Yeah, you hope. I always hope, but I didn't expect. And that's a sad thing, really. We want to be coming into League Two games on our own ground expecting to get 3 points. And I certainly didn't come in that day expecting it, because that's the way we've been preconditioned, unfortunately, in recent months. So yeah, in light of that, obviously it transpired out to be a good afternoon. But yeah, on answer to your question, I certainly wasn't enthusiastic and expectant at the start.
Yeah, the Salopcast group chat was pretty negative beforehand. I had to have a chat with my lad to say, if we're 2-0 down by half time, we're allowed to go home. It was the only way I could get him to attend. I was feeling pretty negative. I'm not sure I could be bothered to go. It was all a bit of doomsday back then. It feels odd after 2 wins to think like that. It was only 2 games ago, and you've on a bit of a high today. But no, I wasn't expecting to get anything out of it, particularly Cambridge in good form, us struggling, not picking up points. It felt like it was going to be a bit of a long afternoon, but turned out to be completely opposite, didn't it?
Yeah, I was really, really negative going to this game, I have to say. My Twitter feed showed that as well. And it's a bit of a random story. I went to go meet someone in my team who's been on maternity leave. She lives in Chester, so I drove up to go and visit her to have like a face-to-face meeting before she comes back to work in November. And it's a bit random, but there's like so many houses being built north of Telford, like loads of houses in all the villages around here. And I was just listening to radio, whatever, just I had my own thoughts, and I was thinking, like, all these people could be Shrewsbury fans. We could be dominating Shropshire. A very random thought, but we should be dominating Shropshire. And I was thinking, all these houses, so many houses being built, thousands of houses being built. And I was just thinking, like, well, you'd never get them to come, would you? You'd never be able to entice them to come and support Shrewsbury Town. And yeah, obviously, as Chris said, we hadn't won at home for ages. We hadn't won at home all season in the league. And yeah, there was such a really negative kind of mindset, I thought, going into the game. And I was in a really, really negative place. But fortunately for us, God knows what Cambridge had thought. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall in their pre-season game. What they'd said, because they just didn't turn up, did they? They were, and I'd say, I don't know what you guys think, but I think it was probably I'm not saying they're the worst team, because that's the thing, always a bit silly to say someone's the worst team when we only see them once. But in terms of an opposition performance, I think that was the worst opposition performance I've seen all year. Like if you asked them, like, what are Cambridge? Like, they play 4-4-2, but I've got no idea what they were trying to do.
That was the weird thing about them, is that, you know, they've obviously had a better season than us, and we've had a poor season, and it was a very, very comfortable run-of-the-mill 2-0 win. They didn't put us under any pressure or really trouble our back line or trouble our goalkeeper. No. It's like they haven't done their research on what we struggle with. You know, we're bad when people run directly at us. They played a lot of balls through the heads of our defenders, which really helped them. And again, that happened on Saturday, to be fair, yesterday. And I think some of the slight change to the team give Appleton a little bit of credit. I think some of it enforced in the fact that Anderson's injured and he shuffled the back line a bit and brought Hoole in. Might have caught them by surprise a little bit, but they just didn't really seem to have a cohesive game plan. And they must have had a lot of players who just didn't sort of perform to their best that day, because I was quite surprised quite how ineffective they were against a struggling team who you know, most people think we're there for the taking. If you're Cambridge coming to Shrewsbury, yeah, it was very surprising. But so going back to your point about attendances and things, I got to the ground about 5 minutes before kickoff, and that's usually a nightmare if you want to watch the start of the match. We got out of a taxi at the entrance gate, and you could have told me there wasn't a game on, because there was absolutely nobody outside the stadium. And then when you got to the gate, there was absolutely nobody queuing up. 5 minutes before kickoff, into the concourse, there was nobody milling about, into the stand. Like, it's dead at that stadium at the moment. Hopefully, these last two wins have sort of done something about that. But yeah, it was interesting. Like, I think the general mood in the town, in the county, is pretty negative. So you were saying about bringing other people in, it's just not really going to happen. But yeah, Cambridge were poor. I think they'll be fuming with that result and that performance that they put in.
Yeah, they were. It was really funny. I saw a V-blogger, a neutral, I think it was actually a Norwich V-blogger, but he'd gone to the Cambridge game, obviously just a big football fan. And he was interviewing their fans at half-time, and they thought they were going to win like 3-2. They were that confident they were going to turn it around, and obviously how poor we are. But yeah, it was a big shock. But yeah, what was your kind of thoughts on the Cambridge game, Chris?
So, yes, they were poor, but sometimes you have to give your own team credit. And maybe they were poor because we didn't let them play.
And I think it's going to be a theme.
We were very good
with this podcast. Yeah.
We weren't, you know, we're not talking sexy total football from Shrewsbury. It was gritty stuff. It was organised. We didn't threaten a lot ourselves. I seem to remember our shot count was only about 6 for the whole game or something really low, really. But we did have the better chances, as well as the 2 we got. We looked the more likely to add to it. They never really threatened our goal. Our defence looked to me watertight all afternoon. It's, you know, Will Brook, I've mentioned him once already. That was his second professional clean sheet. I doubt he'll have an easier one. He didn't have a lot to do. And that was down to the work that was going on in front of him. You know, I thought that was Sam Stubbs' best game in his Shrewsbury shirt. Will Boyle is looking now like the leader he was signed to be. Well, as Mike mentioned, Luca Hall has made a difference to that defence. I think the extra pace he's got is allowing us to just play a bit further up the field, and that's helping as well. And then you've got players, you know, Appleton is still playing round pegs in square holes in places, but at the minute it's working. So Ishmael Kapia is being asked to play as a right wing back, and that kid has got one hell of an attitude, because for a 19-year-old lad out of a Premier League academy, he's doing the defensive side of that role very, very well. He's been very, very impressive. So, and then you've still got Sam Klukas on the other side, playing out of position, but again, playing pretty well in that role at the moment. So, it's working. You know, I'm sure it's not the team Michael Appleton really wants to play, but it is the team he is playing, and it's working.
Yeah. And we came into this game. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I'd take a bit of a question around what Chris said about we didn't let them play. Our defence didn't let their attackers play. Our defence was extremely robust.
Yeah.
But our midfield, almost every single time they got the ball, they were trying to play a first time over the shoulder, and we kept giving Cambridge the ball. Cambridge had more than enough ball to damage us and trouble us. And on another day, you know, we can't cough that much possession up to an opposition team. You know, if they'd have been better, particularly Sang, I found was a big problem with it. Sang just
we gave the ball away a lot. But I'd say it's really interesting. Like, you know how I like my stats. So in terms of XG, they only had 0.33, which I think most of that came from that first shot in the first 45 seconds. And that would have been terrible if we conceded from a corner again after a minute. That would have been terrible. But we actually, there's a stat called passes per defense's action, and we let them have 15. And against like MK Dons, for another example, we let them have 7, so we let them have the ball, but we let them have the ball where we wanted them to have the ball. And as soon as they came into our half, I thought our defensive structure was really good. Stan kept giving the ball away from an offensive perspective, but I thought defensively we were really, really good in that game, and I thought we nullified them really well. And to Chris's point, you got to give Shrewsbury Town the kind of the credit for the way they defended. They had the ball, but I don't feel like they were ever going to score. And it's, for me, there's a funny comment from someone on Twitter called Hole in the Toad. And he said, our back line looks tighter than my dad's wallet right now, and Appleton deserves some credit. And obviously 3 clean sheets over the last 3 games is good to see. We've cut out the silly. Well, we obviously, months ago, we stopped playing the ball at the back, and we touch wood. We cut out, in these 3 games, we haven't made any silly errors at the back, or less of them.
The interesting thing about that is that both Cambridge and yesterday, Crawley, they both tried to play it from the back. And particularly in the Cambridge game is where George Lloyd, shut him down, nicked the ball off him and scored. And then yesterday they were getting themselves in a bit of trouble with it, with a high press, and Cabby trying to, running at him with his pace. So I didn't like us doing it. And I really like opposition teams doing it against us, because I think it's suicide in League Two. I don't think it does you any good long term.
Not doing Cambridge.
So yeah, I'm glad that
Crawley any good, is it?
Exactly. I'm glad that Appleton sort of picked up on that and is actually sort of able to set up a team to do well against it as well. So yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, because Crawley was moving ahead against Cambridge. In terms of possession, they had 61% possession, and against Crawley they had 66% possession. But I think in both games we were really street smart in terms of where we let them play. We'll come on to the Crawley game in a second, but the Cambridge game, I thought it was good, and it was really good instinctive striker pressing we saw from George Lloyd to kind of get the ball. And Chris, what was your thoughts when Lloyd was going in on goal? Because you sit very close to me. We were basically between, it was us, then Lloyd and the goalkeeper all in a line. So it felt tight.
It was the press working, wasn't it? I mean, that goal was, from a Cambridge point of view, a disaster, but from a Shrewsbury point of view, it was the game plan working to perfection. We pressed them, we made the mistake, and Lloyd, give him credit, took it well. What was I thinking? I was thinking fantastic chance, but equally, how many times have we seen chances like that and they either fire straight at the keeper or they fire over the bar? It's not easy. Yet the striker has time to think about it, and he actually finished it very well. And Michael Appleton talked about that, didn't he? He said in training in the week, he'd been telling Lloyd when he was getting a chance to just hit it, because he was saying Lloyd is better when he just blasts it rather than thinks too much. And he said, fortunately, on this occasion, he didn't listen to me at all, because what does he do? He calmly slots it under the keeper straight into the corner, and it was a lovely finish. So yeah, fantastic, and pleased for him, because he hasn't scored a lot of goals, has he? How many times have we talked on this podcast about how George Lloyd does so many things well, apart from the one thing you want a striker to do, which is score goals? Well, in that game, he showed the instincts of a striker.
And the last time he did score for us was at home in the last home win. So it was quite nice symmetry there. The next time he scored, obviously we won again at home. So yeah, the Cambridge result was good. The header was superb. I think we've all been a bit frustrated. We got 3 big centre backs. Well, we certainly had 3 big centre backs of Anderson, Boyle, and Stubbs. Should still have the threat. And then Klukas with a superb free corner, and Boyle raised to the head in the back of the net, and 2-0 at half time. I thought it was much deserved. And then second half, Mike, how would you just summarise Shrewsbury's performance in the second half against Cambridge?
It was really professional, I think, was what it was.
Yeah,
we defended resolutely. I was sort of complaining about Sang giving the ball away earlier on, but like you say, if you get the ball away from dangerous areas, it's as useful as anything else. When you're in a scrappy bit of a battle and you're trying to just see the game out, you can release the ball then. I thought Appleton made good use of his subs, bringing in. We were losing the battle a little bit for control in the middle of the park, and then that's when he brought in Isaac England, who I think settled us down, and his just little foot on the ball and making sure we kept control in there was good. So we saw the game out very professionally, very calmly. And sort of when the full-time whistle blew, I can turn around to Chris and we just sort of looked at each other and thought, well, that was just sort of very, very calm, very professional. It wasn't, we weren't sort of backs to the wall last 5-10, which we generally are. If we're ahead, we sort of seem to lack the confidence to see it through. But I think that all goes back a little bit back to Cambridge, not troubling us, but also us setting up and doing our jobs properly. I think, yeah, it was nice. It was a nice stress-free end to the game, which we don't really get a lot.
And what was your thoughts on that game? Do you agree? Anything to comment on there, Chris?
Yeah, I don't think I can add to what Mike just said. It was routine. The second half felt like we were in third gear, and that's all we needed to be. It felt like if Cambridge had started to put us under more pressure, we possibly had another gear as well to respond. And it's nice to be in that position as a Shrewsbury side, because we haven't seen much of that lately. It was as easy a win as I can remember in a long time. You know, you go back to the wins last season, and we had to battle for our lives against Birmingham. We had a thriller against Wrexham, a 10-man victory against Mansfield, but these were all really difficult games that we had to give everything to take. I can't remember the last time we won a game in coasting, and it was, you know, that's what we want in League Two, isn't it? And a few more games like that at home, and we will be away from the relegation zone. So let's hope that's going to be the norm as opposed to the exception.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like the team feels a little bit more settled. Yeah, we think we've still got a few players playing out of position. While Sang did give the ball away quite a bit, I thought his energy in midfield helped. Him and Perry were quite industrious in the middle of the park. I'm not saying they were good, I'm not saying they were great, but at least
that's not what you were shouting behind me on the day, Ollie. You were quite.
No, when he was giving the ball away.
When
he was giving the ball away, it was really frustrating because he was trying obviously under instruction to play some Hollywood balls, and none of them worked. It was really frustrating when he kept giving the ball away. But on reflection, he did do a good job kind of without the ball. So you got to try and give him credit where credit's due. So just a bit of a gap in the games now, and just going to look at the transfer dealings, because I don't think anyone quite expected 3 out, 1 in after the Cambridge game, Mike, in terms of what happened. It was a bit of a surprise. So 3 things have happened. So Callum Stewart has gone on loan to Brackley until January. Toto Nsiala has been released, the club said, due to family reasons. And then George Nurse has gone to Yeovil for 1 month. So, yeah, a bit of a surprise there, Mike, that 3 players have left.
All completely sensible decisions as well, I think.
Yeah.
I think Stewart had a run at the start of the season. I think it was fairly obvious that he wasn't quite at League Two standard. Yeah, his energy and his enthusiasm can't be denied, but just the positional sense and the quality, possibly not there yet. Certainly not writing him off. I think alone could do him the world of good. I think there is potentially a player in there somewhere that can play a part for the town, but I think he just needs to go and work on his craft at a level sort of that he's comfortable with at the moment, get some confidence. I think Nurse out on loan, I can only assume that's to prove himself that he's fit enough for a month to get a more permanent deal in January. I think his time at the town is done, personally. That seems to be the messaging. So good to him to go and give him a chance to go and get himself something sort of longer term. I wish it hadn't come to it. I was always a George Nurse fan. I think the injuries really sort of did him no favours here. And I hope he goes on and does brilliantly at Yeovil and has a good career, because for what he's been through, he really deserves it. But a sensible move all round, get him out of the club, get him a fresh start. And then Toto, bless him. I hope everything's all right. Family reasons is always an odd thing to read on an agreed release. Always be a Shrewsbury legend for me for his first spell, for his tackle against James McLean. I think you don't need to say any more about any of those things. They stand for themselves, the record he's got. It hasn't worked out that brilliantly since he came back, but I think, he's an older player. He's had some injuries. He's never the player he was when he left. But I'll always remember that Paul Hurst season, his partnership with Matt Sadler. I think he was brilliant. And I just hope everything's all right with him and he can get back to playing football somewhere he's happy, somewhere he can play, somewhere he can perform his best again. So I think we probably just send our best to Toto, don't we, as a podcast? You'll always be welcome in Shrewsbury, I think. Yeah,
no, definitely. He's a good servant for the club. Obviously, he's played like 88 games for Shrewsbury Town. Obviously, in the modern era, that's quite a lot. So, yeah, good luck to him. Hopefully, he's always well. And, yeah, he's 33. So, he's still young enough to maybe play somewhere else. But, yeah, I'm sure we'll see him pop up somewhere.
88 games, Ollie. Is that Toto? That must just be league games, because overall he's past 100 now. They've put him
on. I ain't able to talk about league games.
But he is on the honours board. He's another. They make it. It's quite nice. I quite like it. There's this thing at the training ground where they list all the players who've made 100 appearances for the club, and you see that it seems to mean something to the players, and they care about getting onto it. And Toto certainly was chuffed when he made that, and everything Mike said, I echo. We definitely wish Toto Nsiala well. That first spell was fantastic. People might forget. It's easy to forget. We sold him with John Nolan to Ipswich Town for a combined £2 million. Shrewsbury Town don't bank £2 million in transfer fees very often. So
Agent Hurst.
Well, obviously, he did us a favour, didn't he? But those players commanded that fee because of the job they did in that season. And Toto Nsiala at that point was one hell of a centre back. And it's a shame that since then things have clearly gone wrong for him, because Toto Nsiala of 7 years ago was a class act. And good luck to him. I hope everything's all right, like Mike says, and I hope he goes on. And if he plays football again in non-league or whatever, I hope that goes well for him as well, because he seems a thoroughly top bloke.
Yeah, no, definitely. Good luck to him. And then a player who I think probably, Chris, you probably first mentioned feels like several months ago now, that Josh Ruffles has been training with Shrewsbury Town. He did go on trial again then to Northampton in League One. And finally, we got our man. The patience has kind of borne some fruit. I would say, obviously, you'd say 3 players out. We've signed 1. So hopefully he can be a player of some quality. I think a few people are surprised that he's turned up at Shrewsbury. Played League One last year for Huddersfield. I'm hoping that he's going to bring some quality to that left wing back position. Obviously, he came on Saturday and played in central midfield, but I think that was more of didn't want to kind of ruffle the apple cart in terms of the team on Saturday. But hopefully, he can bring some quality to left wing back, because I think we're all a bit bored about whinging about crap left wing backs, and I think Nurse and Benning over the last 2 years have been really poor.
I think it's a good signing that strengthens us in 2 positions, which doesn't always happen with one signing. So it makes us better at left wing back, hopefully, but also then moves Klukas into the middle, hopefully, which will improve us in there in terms of having a bit more calmness. Klukas' fitness has massively improved since he's been at left wing back. He looks like kind of player that can cover the ground in the middle of the park, which he didn't look like at the start of the season. He looks like he'll be able to control it in there a bit more, put a foot on it, release Perry and McDermott a bit more, or make a nice access in there with England when he needs to. So I think it strengthens us in 2 places. I think it could be a really shrewd signing if he's up to speed, and he can sort of Ruffles, if he can get in that left wing back role straight away, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. would like to play left wing back, and maybe there's a few things we can maybe play midfield 3, play Perry and McDermott, and let them push on. And let's see what they can do. But yeah, Chris, what's your thoughts on Ruffles? Obviously, it's a player that we've been thinking about signing for a while.
Yeah, it's clearly been he's been playing us off, hasn't he? Which is fair enough. He's been looking around for the right deal for him. He's been to several clubs. We finally got our man. My understanding, this wasn't actually reported, so I don't know if this counts as a pod exclusive. I think he's only signed till January. So I think initially we have only got him until the window opens again. So, it might be a case of enjoying while we've got him, because I don't know how long it'll be. But he's here to do what he can for us. And let's hope that we can extend that, or, I suppose he's hoping that it goes well and maybe he gets a move further up the pyramid again, because his career has mostly been at Championship and League One level. But he, on paper, he's a very good signing for us, and let's hope it works. Just a little bit we saw of him in the Crawley game, which we're going to come on to in a few minutes, but there, his footwork was there already. There was a few things I liked from Josh Ruffles. I'm looking forward to seeing more from him. He's clearly fit. He spent the summer on the PFA course. This isn't a player who's come in and not kicked a ball for 3 or 4 months like we've had with Chooks and Ike. This is a guy who's come in and looks to me ready to contribute straight away. So that's a positive.
No, definitely. And I've just pulled it for those who are watching on YouTube. So obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're on the pod, we've just shown the squad, which I share on Twitter quite a lot. Not many centre backs, but I would say that Sang and Huel can play there as well.
So can Ruffles.
Yeah, Ruffles can play left wing back, left centre back, or midfield as well. So while we haven't got a lot of players, I'm hoping that Ruffles brings some quality into the squad, and maybe we can sign someone else in January as well, because I think we are a bit light. But any kind of comments, guys, in terms of the squad and the makeup of the squad right now? Anything you're happy about? Anything you're concerned about?
Just looking at that graphic, one comment: you need to add Ruffles to it.
Oh, this is an old one. Sorry. Yeah. I thought I'd added him to it. Okay, apologies. I hadn't done it.
But other than that, you're right. We're light at the back, aren't we? But that's the world we're in. This is a bit like 4 years ago, and in Cotterell's last season, when we spent practically the whole season with only 17 professionals. Well, we're down to 20 at the moment, so it's certainly a small squad, but unfortunately we're used to that as Shrewsbury Town fans. It's not exactly massively out of the ordinary for what we've seen in recent times.
I'm just really hoping that Ruffles is, just not going to be another player where we sign and then they turn a bit crap. Because Filmer reminds you of Fleming, who played in the Championship, and he's going to be the answer there. And the left wing back position seems to be a little bit cursed. Actually, virtually every position for us seems a bit cursed, to be honest, over the last few years. But left wing back in particular has been an area. Klukas has done really well. I think he's, he has been a bit of a round peg in a square hole, but he's done pretty well there. And it'll be interesting to see what Appleton does in terms of positions going forward.
Yeah, I look at that squad list. My only concern really is with the injury to Iovian, which we'll probably get to in the new section, is the mobility of our attacking unit. George Lloyd is very active. He runs himself into the ground. But on Saturday, when we brought on Anike and Marquise, the dynamism up top goes down a notch, let's say. So the concern is if George Lloyd now pulls a hamstring or he's out with a calf for a few weeks, them two lumbering about up top or trying to squeeze Scully in there or another non-specialist square peg into a round hole. I'm a bit concerned about how that works out, but we shall see,
Yeah, no, we're definitely a bit short, but hopefully we've got a play. But we do have a lot of players with a lot of flexibility. So trying to be positive. Hopefully that will work out for us as we go forward. Cool. So then we go on to the Crawley game at home. For me, this felt like a massive, massive game.
Yeah.
Not in terms of kind of results and points, because I think it's still a bit early for that. But for the kind of Appleton, I think, because let's be honest, a lot of fans, not everyone, that's not correct. A lot of Shrewsbury Town fans are calling for Appleton to be sacked. Rumour has it he almost was sacked, and either the chairman decided to change his mind, or there's lots of rumours were flying around that weekend. It was the weekend. Yeah, it was the weekend. The last home game, doesn't it? Before the Barrow game.
Yeah. MK Dons, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the MK Dons game. There's a lot of rumours swirling. He'd gone on the Saturday. And then the Sunday, I'd heard there'd been a meeting. It'd been reported the chairman was at the stadium on the Sunday morning. Rumour has it's only rumour that Appleton had obviously convinced the chairman to stay. That's just completely a rumour, but maybe it's true. Obviously now Appleton has got a draw and 2 wins under his belt. Obviously, we want Appleton to be, whoever's the Shrewsbury Town manager, we want them to be successful. But it felt like when we were really struggling, this game for Appleton was massive. I think it was also really huge for the players. 2 home games after we've been so poor at home. It was a chance for the players to show us and prove to themselves and everyone that they are good enough to stay in this division and they do care and want to put an effort in. And Chris, what was your kind of thoughts on the first half?
We started that game really well, actually. For 25 minutes, we were the better side. And we had Taylor Perry went closest with a long-range effort from just outside the box. Keeper made a good save to deny that. We were on top in that game. And I'm not saying it was champagne football, but we were certainly the more likely. But the game started to change as the first half went on. And maybe the last 15 or 20 minutes of that half, it was a slightly different story. And Crawley was starting to put us under pressure to the point
because they cheated.
I was pleased half-time arrived, to be honest.
Because Crawley cheated. Yeah, the teams. Ainsworth used to do it.
The goalkeeper situation.
A hamstring, and they sit down for like 20 minutes, and then the manager has a full-on team talk and changes his tactics. It's coming quite a common thing in English football at the moment. Is that the goalkeeper pretends he's got an injury? There's absolutely nothing wrong with him. All the players go over to Lindsay. They do a full tactical analysis, change how they're playing, and then they kind of change the momentum of the game. For me, it's cheating. And they were terrible in the first 25 minutes, as you say, Chris. And we were pressing really hard, got into decent areas. Unfortunately, didn't do anything with it. But it was. I'm not a fan of this. I'm not sure what referees can really do about it, to be honest. Because it's a bit of a difficult one, but it is really annoying that the basic goalkeepers are now a way of time wasted and having tactical discussions.
It's gamesmanship, but I do find it hard to get too critical given how often we did it and how as supporters we used to revel in it. It's one of those things you hate happening to you, but you're all right when it's being.
But it's still cheating. It's either way. I'm criticising ourselves by calling it cheating as well. I think it's cheating. I think it's a form of cheating by wasting time and giving the manager the chance to do a full tactical debrief and change how you.
Why don't we ever do it then?
We did under Ainsworth.
Terribly, yeah.
We did
never do it under Appleton. Should have really made the most of that for the last sort of 20 games. That might have helped us out a bit. I don't think it's cheating. It's just working the system until they put a rule in that you can't do it. People will do it, you know what I mean? And then they'll find another way of doing it. It'll be, making somebody run on the pitch and delay. I don't know. I think it's fine. It's all right. It's all part of the tactical sort of battle of the managers, isn't it? It brings a bit of intrigue to it. We're talking about it. So it's, it's interesting enough.
And question for you guys to do with their live. Did you think during the game? Did you think we were going to win this game even before the red card? And I didn't ask you the question after the red card. Did it change it for you? But what was your kind of thoughts up to the hard red card?
I think we were labouring before the red card. We started well, and then they had the tactical change, and then we seemed to struggle. And then after the red card, I don't really felt like we pressed the man advantage at all. I think it still seemed very even, and we carved some decent chances, but they were always snatched, or that one Anike misses towards the end where he heads it wide from sort of point blank range. It just felt like we weren't really clicking, and I think it's kind of telling that we had a good stretch of the match against 10 men, but we scored from a set piece, which it's sort of we did the week before against 11. There was we didn't carve them open with overloads or good play. It was quite route one in the end again, when we should have been a bit more dominant, I thought. So we often puffed. I mean, it was a poor game. It wasn't a good game to watch, I don't think. It was, but again, we came out with the result. I think I turned around to you, Chris, and we were just like, God, that wasn't enjoyable, but it's all about the 3 points, isn't it? And I think, like I said earlier, that's going to be League Two, I think. Any idea that we're going to be playing liquid football, we've got one for the birds now, I think, yeah.
It was attritional. In answer to Ollie's question, up until the red card, I thought for the first half hour, I thought we were going to win. But then as the game turned, by the time it got to the hour mark, I was anxious. It felt like Crawley were on top. And after the red card, as Mike said, we didn't even dominate at that point. But that doesn't, it doesn't always work like that, does it? How many times have we seen our team win with 10 men or fail to win against 10 men? It happens a lot. It happened twice in the EFL on Saturday. And Crawley are a tough team to play against, I think. In that situation, they're probably one of the worst oppositions you could have. Because one thing I would say about a Scott Lindsay team, their manager, they were better on the ball than us. They keep the ball better than us. They were knocking it about to the extent that, if we haven't got the ball, then the extra man, you can't make the extra man count if you haven't got the ball. And they kept the ball away from us for long periods. And that was effective. That was effective for them. But, what I will say is we kept plugging away, we kept battling, we kept fighting, and we got our goal. And, yes, it wasn't pretty. Yes, it was ugly at times and attritional. Unfortunately, that's League Two football. League Two football is often attritional, ugly football. And we are going to have to find ways to win games like that this season. And on Saturday, we did. So, to me, job done. And I loved listening to Scott Lindsay's interview after the game. A very unhappy man. They scored in the first half, didn't they? A goal that was given offside. I haven't seen it back, so I can't comment. But Scott Lindsay was insistent that he was 2 yards onside. I think that's a away manager being biased, but I'll have to see it.
I don't know. I watched it back, and it's really hard. It's one of those, I don't know why. It's the angle, I think, from the west stand, in the centre of the west stand when you're watching it. I think you might have a case. I can't say conclusively either way, but I think you might have a good case. Yeah, it's really
I don't
tight.
really care.
I know we don't really care,
point, isn't it?
But it wouldn't be much of a podcast if we just said the results. But yeah, I get your point, and we don't care.
And then the sending off was obviously key as well, and he was furious about that. He said that his player has simply slipped. Again, I find it hard to comment because, like most people, I was following the ball. But so I didn't. I reacted to.
He was lucky he didn't get booked earlier on. He kicked in the first 4 minutes of the game.
That was a second book.
He did get booked, yeah.
Yeah, but he should have got booked earlier than that. And luckily, he was only
earlier,
right at the start of the game. No, right at the start of the game, he kicked the ball away and basically told the referee to F off. So
he had an absolute nightmare of a weekend though, McCurdy, because in the build-up, he was tweeting that we fancied a 6-pointer this weekend. Then he got quite embarrassingly booked for diving. He missed an absolute sitter. He had one disallowed.
The reference was because he's a Chelsea fan. He tweeted that just before Forest Chelsea.
Well, you got to be aware of what you're doing. Yeah, but then he missed a sitter, and then he got sent off rightly for he went in late and sort of quite studsy up on Luca Hall's ankle. So he's had an absolute stinker. Plus, he doesn't look like the most normal bloke. He's all screaming and shouting on his way off the pitch, when he? So he seems like a thoroughly unlikable
I love
bloke.
that. I loved watching him get all upset when he went off. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It was fantastic, wasn't it? Yeah. So he's had a nightmare. But yeah, going back to the comment about how we finished the Cambridge game as opposed to this one, we said we were street smart. We said we were professional. In this game, we looked nervous about as soon as we went ahead, we seemed to get very nervous and seemed to panic. We started time wasting very early. Chris, you had a problem with this, didn't you? Where the game seemed, because we had a big delay because was it Cabby went down with a big cramp at one point. And we had a big delay in the game. So we knew there was going to be a lot of time added. But with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, we started time wasting, taking it to the corners. And we were just adding on to our own problem after the 90 was up, because there was just more and more time added. And we nearly came unstuck with that a bit. I don't think we managed the game very well at the end of that one.
Well, someone who did help that, though, or someone we need to talk about, was that one counter-attack, wasn't it, in the last, like this time you were talking about, where, and then Marquis went into the corner. He could have maybe played chuck an EK through, but he didn't. He went into the corner. I think we do need to talk about the fact that Marquis, who we haven't been overly complimentary about because he's had a very poor season, but that's one thing. But booing your own player when they come on. So he was very loud against Cambridge. I wasn't at the game, as I said already, against Crawley. Did you guys hear the booing that apparently happened from the West End?
Yeah, it was more muted this time than against Cambridge. It's just ridiculous, I think. It's absolutely mental. Yeah. I was at Burton away when we gave the players pelters when they were shit and we lost to Burton and we were going to get relegated.
That was after the game.
Reacting to a bad performance, fine. Predicting a bad performance and booing somebody coming on who, for what you want to say, he's the person who scored most of our goals recently in the last couple of seasons. He always does put a shift in.
You want him to do well.
We want him to do well. I don't get booing somebody on.
I'm frustrated that he's not playing well,
but
I do want him to play well. So why would you boo him? I don't get it.
And he can play well again. Like, he hasn't shown much of it this season, but he's got like a track record in football of not being useless. He's got a good long career behind him. He's maybe a bit slower than he used to be, and his body's not quite as reactive as it used to be. But there's no point. That was perfect for him at the weekend. Bring him on. 15, 20 minutes to go. He is experienced. He knows when to go to the corners, and he knows when to play the cross. He knows how to stitch up defenders and stretch the lines and stuff. That's great for him, and we shouldn't be booing him on because he's coming on to do it. It's the old John Lewis job, isn't it? To come on and sort of push teams back and waste the time. So it's not for me. I don't think you'd be a fan of that, Chris. Knowing you how we do, I don't think you'd like it.
No. So, no, I thought it was appalling in both games. I didn't actually hear it in the Crawley game, but I read about it afterwards and saw it had happened again. I don't understand the mentality. I put something on Twitter criticising it after the Cambridge game. I got almost 200 likes for that post, which for me is a big number, and suggested that most Shrewsbury fans seem to agree that it's not the right thing to do. But I did also get criticised, to be open. I was also criticised on one forum online as a self-appointed moral arbiter for daring to criticise the people that have booed him. I don't think I'm being a self-appointed moral arbiter. I just think I'm expressing an opinion that booing your own players before they've even got on the pitch is stupid. I don't think that's a controversial position to take. I think it's just common sense. And I do think it's the social media age that we're in these days. Everybody is so reactive and so angry about everything. And I don't know. I'm an old man now, Mike. I don't get it. I don't see why you behave in that way. And I've got players that I don't like necessarily. There's some in the squad I'm not a fan of. And there's certainly been players in the past I'm not a fan of. I've never once booed a player onto the pitch. I might have booed one as they went off after some appalling performance. And even that, sometimes I think, is it the right thing to do? But I understand that. But I've certainly never booed anyone onto a pitch. And I just find that preposterous. Do we want John Marquis to influence the game and help us get a result? Or do we want him to come on the pitch in a mental state that's going to make him perform worse? And I can't imagine that booing somebody is going to do anything other than impact their performance negatively. So why would you want to do that? It's just stupid.
Yeah.
So sorry to myself. I am a self-appointed moral arbiter, Ollie.
I think with that said, we do have a potentially lucrative line of pod merchandise with self-appointed moral arbiter T-shirts going around. We can get a few of them knocked up. Wear them in the West Stand. That'd be quite nice. So yeah, I'll leave you to work on that, Ollie. You get cracking.
Yeah, it's about time we made some money for the podcast. It's just a drain of my cash. So yeah. in terms of so want to talk about that question for you guys. Has Appleton? I'll go to you, Mike. Has Appleton turned it around?
Appleton is turning it around. I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite down with going to the South Stand and giving it way.
You're on buying a Michael Appleton 5-year career banner yet.
I'm not quite there. I think that, like you said, about 2 or 3 games ago, he was probably living game by game, result by result. I think he was that precarious in his position. I think now, he's fixed a few of his own problems. Brooke seems to have given the backline some confidence.
Is a bloody brilliant signing.
Yeah, we should talk about Brooke, by the way. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think that has given the defence some confidence. I think getting Hoole in there solves the pace problem at the back, and I think, like you said, it means that the two-header kickers can go and attack the ball knowing there's a sweep there. I think that fixing the problem at left back fixes some of the problems in the centre of the park, hopefully. And the attacking unit is coming together a bit better. George always seems to have found a new lease of life. So I think that he's starting to fix a few things. I think momentum is massive. So these results will start to build us some really good momentum that he can hopefully tap into, because when he came, everybody said how great he was as a man manager, how great he was as a motivator. People love playing for him. Now, you can only really do that when things are going your way. So hopefully he can grab this momentum and build it and inject it into the players. Am I still enjoying what I'm seeing on the pitch? It's not good football. It's not enjoyable. It's attritional. It's grindy. Have I come to terms with that's what we've got to do this season to survive? And is survival the key? Absolutely. Survival is the aim, and we've got to grind it however we can. And I think he's starting to turn that round. I'd need a few more of those results until I start joining in with the cheers after the match, the 1, 2, 3s and all that. But he's on the right path.
I wonder how many people are doing the cheers are doing the booing.
Yeah, well, exactly. It all comes out the South Stand, doesn't it? So, yeah. But we're on the right path, and I think that he's showing signs of life. So I hope it continues, but I'm not quite there yet. Let's ask me again in another month. Yeah,
10-year contract. Give him a 10-year contract.
Jesus,
right? I'm joking. I will say, I'm pleased for him that things have improved. I think that he got to the point where his position was almost untenable, and that around the time of that MK Dons game, I expected him to go. I had the chance to go on Radio Shropshire around then, and I think I said, on balance, Michael Appleton needs to go now. But I felt bad saying it, because as a bloke, I quite like him. You watch his pre-match interviews, his post-match interviews. I think he conducts himself well. I think under extreme pressure, he has remained calm, and he's remained professional, and I admire that. So people like that, I want to do well in life. So I want him to turn it around, because I think he deserves it. So I really, and so what I will say as well, I criticised him early in the season for being dogmatic. I thought he was a manager wedded to his principles to the detriment of our football club. Well, he's proved me wrong on that bit, because the attritional football you've just talked about, Mike, is not Michael Appleton football, is it? It's not the football he's famous for playing, but he seems to have accepted that with what he's got at his disposal right now, it's what he needs to do to get results. Well, like you, I can live with that. If that gets us up, hopefully away from the relegation battle and into mid-table or whatever, if we have to be a bit ugly to do it for now, then so be it. So yeah, I've got time for him, and I hope he succeeds. And yeah, I'm certainly not in a position anymore where I'd be calling for his head. If I was being asked right now, should Michael Appleton go, I think he's done enough to say that he deserves a bit longer.
Yeah,
I think sorry to butt in there, Ollie. I think he's on a knife edge though, because of what you've just shared on the screen, Ollie. The league table, two wins now on the bounce, and he's in trouble again, because, like I say, it's so precarious in terms of our league position, our league survival, and it's the only lever we can pull is changing the manager at this point, isn't it? It's like we always say, once the squad's in through the door, it's your manager and what you can get out of them. So that's why I say I'm not quite convinced yet. Another good 3-4 game run, whether that's a few draws and a win or what have you, just continue to pick up points is what we need. Because if we now go and turn unbeaten in 3, won the last 2 into losing the next 3, it's all for nothing, isn't it? Because a lot of the other teams around us are starting to pick up points.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make.
The next 3 are away games as well.
Yeah, massive.
So we've got so for those on YouTube, you can see the league table. So we're looking at the league table, and yeah, obviously Stanley won. They had a fantastic result against Swindon on Saturday. Charlton Town, as we know, with Cultural of same for us as the last 3. They've won 2, drawn 1. I know it sounds a bit daft because it hasn't happened, but if we hadn't won those 2 games, we'd have 6 points. So we've earned half of our points in the last two games. So he has turned it around. We were critical of him playing out from the back, but to give him his due, we have stopped that. And also, I think it's fair to say that Kabir looks like a good signing. Will Brook, who we want to talk about, is a good signing. Hope maybe Ruffles can be a good sign as well. And Ruffles obviously is coming because of Appleton. Chuck and Ike is a good signing, I think, for this level. So I think hopefully Appleton can turn it around, because we don't want to sack a manager, because that's just going to cause us issues, and we're going to have to be paying off another manager. So hopefully he can turn it around. As I say, I think next few games are going to be key, including let's call it. Actually, I'm going to use Ian's words. So Ian Jones, who obviously does a Shooter Town blog, he did a brilliant line in his latest blog, which I always encourage Shooter Town fans to listen to. And he said that the FA Cup trip to South Shields is not a banana skin, but an elephant trap. And how many Shooter Town managers over your time, Chris, have lost their job after losing to a non-league side in the FA Cup?
Yeah, we've had a few results in the last 20 years, haven't we? I mean, Blythe Spartans is the one everyone's talking about, because obviously that was in the northeast, just like South Shields.
That was terrible.
But we had Histon, and then, in my opinion,
Staines,
the worst of the lot, because it was a home game, Staines. Yeah, we lost at home to Staines. So in my opinion, that tops the three. But 3 bad results from the last 20 years or so against non-league teams. And this one will be another really tough one. And to the point that if we lost it, obviously for us it would be gutting, but I reckon to most of the football world, they're almost expecting it. We're talking about a team flying high at the top of Conference North, National League North as it's called these days. I saw they've won 9 and drawn 2 in the league so far this season, and they're coming up against a team currently in the League 2 relegation battle. So there's a reason
we'll fancy our chances against us.
They certainly will, and so do TNT Sports, I would suggest. That's why they picked it, because everybody that's in the FA Cup.
Yeah, my wife said, my wife said to me, why have they picked Shrewsbury? He said, because they think we might lose. And she just laughed. To a non-league side, that's why we've been picked. And just going a bit of a tangent here, looking at the fixtures. So we've got South Shields on Sunday, Sunday the 2nd. Next game is actually Oldham, who are having 2 bad starts to the season, but they're 17th. But our
Mickey Mellon derby.
Mickey Mellon's side. And then we've got Crewe, who are doing all right. And then after that, we've got Newport County, Fleetwood, and then the dreaded game against Gillingham at home. But I tell you what, the games against Oldham, Newport, and Fleetwood are going to be massive, because obviously Fleetwood having a bit of a very mid-table season. But that Newport County game in particular for me is going to be an absolutely massive one, as well as obviously the FA Cup game as well. So lots of games coming up thick and fast, Chris. The South Shield one is going to be, as Ian said, it's more than a banana skin.
Yeah, you mentioned the Gillingham game not so far away and the distance there coming up as well. Just want to mention, if we won some of those games you just mentioned, Newport, Fleetwood, maybe Oldham, there's games there where if we could pick up some points, we could go into that Gillingham game not that far behind them, because they've fallen apart in the last few weeks. They were 17 points ahead of us at one stage. That gap's down to 10 now. By the time we play them, they could be within touching distance the way they're going, if we can do our job. So I'd love that. That would make that game a lot more fun. I've been dreading that game, but that would give us reasons to look forward to it if we went into it and actually we've closed in on them again, because football can change so quickly. It looked at one point like they were going to run away with the league, but they've, I look at Gillingham because of family reasons. They've done this a lot in recent years. They've started like a train in the last 3 years and then fallen away. And right now, Gillingham fans will be terrified that it's happening all over again. So bring it on. I can't wait for that one. I hope for Ainsworth that he's back by then as well, because obviously this has happened and it's probably a factor in their results. He's out of the dugout at the moment because he's had heart surgery. So we wish him well with that, but it's his assistant looking after the Gillingham team at the minute.
Yeah, and we were talking before about League 2 not being the best. And everyone, like, it's not normal, is it, that at this stage in the season, you have the team that are top of the league table, which is Matt Sadler's and Walsall. But they've won 8, but they've drawn 2 and lost 3. So, 5 out of 13 games they haven't won. For a team to be top of the league table, that's not normal. Like from a normal league, like if you look at other divisions. there is something about League Two, isn't there? Like I would say Cambridge didn't look very good, Barrow didn't look very good, Accrington Stanning didn't look very good. There's a lot of teams that we've played that don't really look very good. Obviously, including ourselves. I did enjoy your tweet, Chris, that you did before the Cambridge win. What was that?
Oh, that was what I know the one you're referring to. I think it was Fan Hub. They put a tweet out about what's that one ground that your team never seemed to win at. So I quote tweeted that as the Crown Meadow. That was the one ground we never seemed to win at. And obviously, unfortunately for us, we've since won twice at the Crown Meadow. So maybe I need to insult us more often because they instantly proved me wrong.
So yeah, this is a funny division. We're not saying we're saying we're out of this at all. It's crap.
It's certainly not funny. I'm not laughing my head off watching them games. It is awful. I think we were spoiled by our decade or so in League One, which I thought was bad. But I'm stunned how bad League Two is. Including ourselves. Yeah,
I remember watching it's really random. I watched the playoff game between Walsall and someone, I can't remember who it was now, and I was surprised how poor it was. And yeah, I've been like, it's so attritional. But at least, again, credit to Albleton. He has, at least we've rather than trying to beat them, we've joined them. But in terms of positives, though, how good is Clucas and Boyle at corners, Chris? Because they've those two between us have earned us 6 points now. Well, not 6 points because that's the Cambridge game where we won 2-0, but still 2 key goals for us. It's about time we start scoring from set pieces.
Yeah, class acts. Sam Clucas has got great delivery on him, and that's been brilliant for us. He's at the minute looked like a very good signing. Will Boyle has always had the promise of being able to deliver goals for us from set pieces. We were told when he signed that's something he could do. He did it in one of the pre-season games as well. Now he's starting to do it in the league games, and he looks as much of a threat from those situations as when Shea Dunkley was doing that for us, or for fans of my vintage, Mickey Heathcote. That's who I think of when I see Will Boyle. Mickey Heathcote used to pop up with a few goals, and he was also a veteran, experienced centre-back. Loved him to bits, and I'm right now, Will Boyle seems to be the same sort of defender to me. I've been really impressed with him. Decent bloke, and I hope he can carry it on.
I think just a note on Boyle. I've been really impressed with his move to the middle. He looks much more comfortable there.
Stubbs in the middle,
his move out to the left. Sorry, with Stubbs in the middle, they both look more comfortable. I thought Stubbs was our man of the match on Saturday. I thought he was brilliant.
Stubbs was brilliant against. I think over these 3 games, I would say Stubbs was probably the best player over these 3 games.
He was really good. But the point I'm trying to make on Boyle, I keep getting distracted, is since he's had the captain's armband sort of more regularly from a starting position, the captaincy seems to bring something out of him. And it's a real quandary to wonder what will happen with Anderson when he gets fit again, because he was one of our big signings, but he has not played very well this season. And I think he's often looked a little bit lost in the system, perhaps, or with what he's been asked to do. I wouldn't like to see him back in until something happens with our backline. That needs to be settled now, where they're playing, who's playing. I think Boyle with the captain's armband, let's see that for the next 10 or 15 games. I'm happy with that. Yeah. 3
clean sheets in a row. You can't see, it'd be strange to change that at the moment. I can't imagine it. We haven't done that in almost 4 years, by the way. January 22 was the last time we kept 3 consecutive league clean sheets. If you remember, we won 3-0 at Fleetwood on Boxing Day, and then 0-0 draws with Accrington and Crewe. So that's going back almost 4 years. It doesn't happen very often at Shrewsbury. I can't see this defence being changed at the moment. It'd be insanity, surely.
And poor old Eli Harrison must wonder what we do when he goes on international duty. Like, who are these people that play instead? He's chipping goals left, right, and centre, and then as soon as he buggers off, we clean sheets and wins. So he won't be getting back in the side for a while. I don't think. Brooke's been fantastic, hasn't he?
And that was a big call for Appleton, obviously, to drop the young Man United lad. I'm sure the Man United loan manager has been on the phone more than once asking what's going on. Why Eli isn't playing, but full credit to Will Brooke. He's been brilliant. His distribution is fantastic, and it just shows he's a player that was obviously at Leeds and the Forest academies, slipped through the net, and we've managed to sign him. Great signing, and hopefully we can sign more players like that going forward. In terms of the signings that isn't necessarily working, is Bradley Heathen has unfortunately done his knee. And they said that he could be out for weeks or months. After almost having this loads of strikers, I'm a little bit worried about striker position at the moment, Chris, because obviously Bradley is injured. Marcus isn't doing so well. Chukwuemeka can't really start. And when that kind of leaves us with Lloyd, obviously Callum Stewart's gone out on loan again. But yeah, watch this bit. I think that's obviously he was so good in that Barnet game, and then also the Chelsea under-21 game. It's obviously you were at that Harrogate game where he was really poor. It's a real shame that he has got injured.
I feel for him, and I really hope he doesn't need surgery, because from what the manager said, if he doesn't, it's 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll see him again in December. If he does need surgery, he was saying 4 to 6 months, which I would imagine means going back to Peterborough and never putting a Shrewsbury shirt on again. So I hope for him it's the first one of those two things. And yeah, good luck to him. It's a shame. He had lost 4, which is why he'd lost his place in the team. So, but he was a good option to have, wasn't he? So it's a shame we've lost him. As you say, that it means for the pace that he was bringing to the team, we are now relying on George Lloyd, or potentially we're relying on Scully playing in that sort of left attacking role. And to be fair to him, by the way, he's starting to look better as well. He's contributing more. He looks like his fitness is coming, and he looks like he's got something about him. I was listening to Radio Shropshire driving back after the Crawley game. I thought they went a bit far. They said that he was reminiscent of Sean Wally. I thought he's got a long way to go before he's the next Sean Wally. But I do think...
I was going to ask a question about Scully. It's a question from Richard on Twitter. And he said, does Scully deserve Micah's starting place?
Yeah, I really liked Scully and Lloyd in the wide positions, bringing the energy, doing the chasing and the harrying. I like the idea of them two out wide with an Anike or a Marquis at the middle who could just stay at the top, be a target, be somebody to push the defences back to create room for Lloyd and Scully. I think there's something in that, especially with Cavier coming down the width as well with a bit more pace. I think that can be quite dynamic. And I would just say a shout out for George Lloyd. I know we're talking about Scully, but I'll get distracted again. George Lloyd, when he went to right wing back on Saturday, was world class. His leap. That Loft he plays up front for Crawley. Loft is a massive bloke, and he was out jumping him by about 2 foot, and he was winning everything in the air. So George Lloyd really impressed me recently. I've been a big critic of his output, but his work rate and his sort of ability to play multiple positions and contribute and press and harry is good. So I think we can make it with the loss of Iovian if we've got Scully and Lloyd and Cavier doing that running and that energy, and that maybe that means we can make use of one of our 2 target men that we've got. Which is essentially what they should be. But Scully, yeah, he's definitely looking fitter. He's looking sharper. He runs well with the ball. He's a threat with the ball at feet. He can dribble directly at centre halves, which is nice. And he's not shy of taking a shot. I just wish he'd use his left foot a little bit more. He does really like to cut back on that right.
Yeah, he's very right-footed.
I think defenders have probably worked that out quite quickly. Well, there you go, yeah. But hopefully my mum will like him. She's always been a huge Sean Wally fan, so maybe Scully's her next favourite player, yeah.
But just what you were just saying then, almost made me thought of a question, which I'll ask Chris. The players, Chris, they seem to be working hard for Appleton and the club and the team and the shirt.
Yeah, I certainly don't think, there's that cliche about has the manager lost the dressing room or whatever. Absolutely not, from what I can see. I don't think that's the case at all. I think they're still very much playing for him, and I think that they are, on the whole, I think they're a decent bunch of lads. It's just whether they've got the quality. But in terms, I'm not going to question their desire to play for our club or their commitment to the shirt. I don't see anybody chucking the towel in, as it were. So, no, I've got no problems on that front, and they're definitely playing for him. Yeah, there's no sign of that. And I think it's probably, if you're Michael Appleton, it's probably a positive sign that he's just been allowed to sign Josh Ruffles. There's another one of his former players coming along to play alongside him. You don't make that signing if the manager's going to get the boot next week, And I'm sure that Josh Ruffles would have wanted some assurance on that as well. So I'd imagine that there's a bit of stability there at the minute, and they've just got to keep producing results to go along with that. Otherwise, as you say, quickly the spotlight comes back again.
It's an interesting point, that, Chris. It links back to, I just remembered a comment from Appleton towards the end of the transfer window, and he was talking about having to move people on before he could bring any more in. And he said, we're trying to move on a few lads. We've had a few chats with who don't want to be here. And so I think that was when we saw Gilead and, he was obviously, he bombed Nurse off, then Nurse wasn't about. So I think he's had to do a little bit of shifting on a few of people who weren't bought in and committed. And now what we're seeing is it's a much smaller squad. But I think, as you say, they're committed to what Appleton wants to do. They're playing for him. And he avoids having to deal with anybody that's not going to put in 100%. I think the energy and the commitment of the people that are in the team has never been in doubt. The quality is a question mark for some of them, but it's nice to see a team that put now, even players like Harry and Sang, they're frustrating at times, but they don't stop running. McDermott covers every blade of grass. it's nice to see people who are putting in the shift, even if often what they do doesn't come off.
Yeah. You mentioned Perry there. He's one for me that I feel is certainly benefiting from clearly having the manager's confidence. I thought against Crawley that was as well as I've seen him play in a Shrewsbury shirt. Probably he was one of our better players in that game for sure. I think he's doing all right.
Well, worth mentioning, he's just joined the 100 Club, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Wasn't that released in a week? So, and I that surprised me genuinely that he's played 100 games, because he's not been here that long. But he's obviously doing something right, because he's in the team very, very often. He's obviously a kind of player that managers like, because he's been here under 3 now, is it 2 or 3 at least? And
he's getting plenty of games.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so 4 managers, and they've all played him quite consistently to clock up 100 quickly. So I get frustrated with him. He's a little bit ill-disciplined to play centre mid, but he's more an attacking midfielder, isn't he? So once he's released to attack, I think he
had a really good shot, didn't he, against Crawley? I just wonder if he scored a goal, whether that would, because we don't score enough goals in midfield. We don't score enough goals. No.
He scores generally in little patches, doesn't he? He got sort of 2 or 3 in a row last season, and then he goes off,
Yeah.
But no, I was going to say, just worth shouting out to him, well done on joining the 100 Club. Like Chris said, it's a pretty remarkable thing in this day and age. So whatever frustrations you have, well done, Taylor. And, let's see 100 more, mate.
Like you, I was slightly surprised that he'd already got to 100. And there was a line in Ian Jones's article again, Ollie, which made me smile on that. And he said, seeing Taylor Perry get to 100 games, he said it's like to him when you're on Facebook and you see that friend's kid in secondary school uniform and you think, how the hell's that happened? Surely they're only 6 years old. And I thought, yeah, that's what it's like with Taylor. It feels like, sure, how's he got to 100? He hasn't been here that long, has he? But I also read he's our longest serving player now. Now that we've got George Nurse out on loan, Taylor Perry is our longest serving player, which says something about modern football as well, about how good it is.
And George Nurse was the only player, he's still obviously our player that kind of links back to the Cottrell era as well. So yeah, it shows you obviously the churn we've had of the squad. But yeah, there's a lot of change this week in the last 2 weeks in terms of signing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we do the next few weeks. One thing that I think is interesting, when I saw the draw, I was like, this is either going to work really well for me or it's not going to work at all. But yeah, I'm in Northumberland, not this week, the week after for half term. And yeah, we're playing obviously Southfields on the Sunday. So I don't think I'm going to be able to keep my family around Newcastle for 3 days. But yeah, what do you guys make, Mike, of the 12 o'clock kickoff in Southfields?
It's so far away that it kind of kills the option to really go to it. I think it's such an early start.
Unless you have a hotel.
Exactly, but then it's an overnighter, and that's expensive. I mean, football's expensive anyway nowadays. Petrol's expensive. It's on the TV. Trying to convince the kids to go that far was tough anyway. We're trying to make them do it at stupid o'clock in the morning. I think you'd sort of put pay to me visiting, and that's a shame for me because I used to hate the FA Cup weirdly, but I do really enjoy FA Cup first rounds and going to grounds you've never visited and the sort of the fun of the cup. But I think the TV scheduling and the way the sort of games are planned now doesn't really have the fans in mind. I think it's really poor. And I mean, if you're a Premier League fan, you can talk about this till the cows come home, but it's starting to affect the lower leagues now. These 3 p.m. kickoffs that are on TV or they're getting moved for odd times. I'm not a fan of it, and it's a shame that I won't be able to make it really because it just doesn't work with family life. And, yeah.
If you talk about from obviously, I don't live in Shrewsbury. I live a bit an hour away, but in terms of if you were from Shrewsbury, it's 227 miles from Shrewsbury to Southfields. If you went now on Sunday at 9:20, it would take you 4 hours. So you want to get there an hour early at least, don't you? And you probably need to give an hour of kind of wiggle room stops. So you got to leave 5 a.m.
It's a 6-hour journey with kids, and it's not fair. And it's a shame really.
On the coach, if you're doing 80 in a car or whatever, you can make a bit of time, but I wouldn't advise doing that. But you on the coach, it's is that 4:30? Do you think on the coach leaving something like that?
Yeah. But that said, I mean, that's my personal situation. I know we'll take a good following. I know the town fans travel in good numbers, and FA Cup brings them out. So
if Benji was a bit older, I think I'd be going. And if I wasn't in there the week 2 days before, so I'll be driving past. But and also I like South. I've done the Great North Run 5 times. So I've ran in finishes in South Shields. So that's a shame for me. I'm not being able to go.
It'll be 75 grand for the club, won't it? 70. I think that's what we get in TV revenue, and it's frustrating, but for us supporters, but that's modern football, sadly, isn't it? This is the way it works, and I suspect the club are quite happy that I'm sure that that Roland Wycherley will be happy to be banking 75 grand for it being on TV.
Hey,
And
Russell,
I suspect
Ruffles the
Michael
second half
Appleton's
of the
happy
year.
because that probably contributed to him being able to sign Josh Ruffles. I'm sure that money plus the players going out is a big factor in why we've been able to do that. So it is what it is, sadly. It's frustrating, but
yeah.
We'll
be able to watch it on TV at least. So those who didn't go, if you do go, yeah, good luck. Hope you have a nice journey.
Well, we should probably mention that Dan was looking to fly there. That's how ridiculous it is.
He is.
Isn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
He's bloody. Dan's, you know, these university professors obviously earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's probably about time to close. Any final thoughts, guys, before we close the pod? Anything we've missed you wanted to cover?
Just I've enjoyed this conversation tonight. It's been nice to talk about some wins and just reminds you why we like football, doesn't it? And why we love Shrewsbury Town. It's actually nice to have a good conversation. Yes, we've been realistic and said things are far from perfect, but we're happy at the minute. It doesn't happen very often, so let's enjoy it because who knows what we'll feel like next time we're together doing this.
Quite right.
So, yeah, I'm not sure when we'll be back. We don't have a schedule and we're a bit random, but yeah, hopefully we don't go out the FA Cup. I would like us to stay in. From a monetary point of view, it would be helpful as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll be back in a few weeks' time with a few more wins under our belt. But yeah, hope you enjoyed listening and watching to the podcast. And yeah, we'll be back again soon.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers all.